Briana Banos, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well as can be. I guess it's been kind of a whirlwind with my documentary Still Preventable coming out. It hasn't even been a whole week. So it's just been a lot of kind of messages, beautiful messages from people and just getting back and responding and things like that. So yeah, it's been a lot this past like 5 days.
I can imagine. It seems like you got a pretty good amount of views for just a few days, really. And I watched it once before, and then I had some time before the podcast, so I started watching it again. And I I know you struggle with perfectionism. I also do struggle with that, and I just want to say, like, don't worry about it. Like, it's really, really good, and it brought back all these feelings that were inside my head during TSW. Like, you have this, like, no pun intended, well, pun intended, you have this fire inside of you while it's happening to you. And then as I got better, I just tried to shut it down more and more, but I couldn't do it while watching this documentary. And I think that you captured that really, really well.
Thank you. I tried really hard to bring in the anecdotal and the hard side of actually being a patient, but try and balance that with the more medical research and the arguments made against us, so that if a medical professional was watching it, which was a goal, that they couldn't negate it and also would possibly be more curious about it. So
Yeah, well, when you see it firsthand, it's really hard to ignore. And you really went into it. And you were traveling across the world, talking with all the people that are involved with this community, this topic. And I, how in the world did you have the energy to do that, even as you're struggling with your own condition? I don't know how the heck you did that.
honestly, I know for a long time with my first documentary, Preventable, I was actually really going through it still when I was filming. And I think this sounds so awful, but almost spite and grief got me through that. I was so angry at everything that I was losing. And I was like, watch me do something about it. And that's just kind of like what kept me going. I had no social life for such a long time because of that. And this time around, I just remember being angry that I was in the position of having what I felt was to go on another drug. So I went on Dupixent probably a month before I even thought about doing a second documentary. And I remember I was in Kelly Barta's guest bedroom. And then if anybody knows who Kelly Barta is, she's part of ITSAN. She's the president of the Coalition of Skin Diseases. And she does a lot of work with TSW because she has TSW as well, has gone through it. And I was just so upset. I was so angry that I was, goodness, almost 8 years at the time then into TSW and thinking I'm still suffering with this and I'm having to go on another drug for my mental sanity to keep going. And that's just kind of what fueled me. And I'm very grateful that I had Dupixent during that time of filming because I think that helped a bit, but I had the side effects then as well from it. So honestly, it's just the longevity of it, of people still suffering intensely through this and us feeling pretty ignored still.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't impart well enough just what TSW feels like. And again, it's different for everybody, but if anyone's listening to this and you're trying to imagine what it feels like, picture the most pain you could possibly imagine and picture it 24/7. That's what it's like. And that's why I can't help but try to advocate for it, because it's just unacceptable. It is unacceptable that this is happening to people. And again, I said, you brought back all the feelings of TSW. I've tried to focus more on, trying to be gracious and trying to think, the doctors, they just don't know and they're trying to help. But when I watched your documentary, like I said, it all came back, and it's just, I can't stand it anymore. Like, I cannot sit by and let this crap go on any longer. The, you know, the thing that really, really gets me, and I'm sure it gets you too, is the kids. Because it's one thing for an adult who has money in the bank, who's got all kinds of stuff going on, they can sort of handle it. But a child, I get choked up thinking about it, because a child can't advocate for themselves. They can't tell you what's going on. And some of the stories you put in that documentary, it just set me on fire. I'm getting emotional right now, but I can't take it anymore. Somebody's got to start watching, and people are, I think this is one of the best times to go through it if you're going to go through it, because there's so many people like yourself out there advocating for it.
Yeah. I mean, to touch on just those 2 points, one about the children, and I think what upsets me is that it's like an even bigger ripple effect when it comes to children, because you said they can't advocate for themselves, that they don't know how to describe what's going on, which then leads to their parents feeling guilt, feeling like they did something wrong, feeling like they are the ones that have put their child through this. I mean, just listening to some of what the families are going through despite a child being in an enormous amount of pain. And then throwing in child protective services or a doctor trying to take away the child.
Oh,
It's like
oh,
it just adds on to that. So it's so it's terrifying what it must be like as a family with a child going through it, to not even begin to know where to navigate, how what the next step forward is. And then when it comes to the community, yes, I'm almost 10 years into this, and back a decade ago there was the smallest community. Itsan was still relatively new. We didn't have as many doctors voicing stuff. We didn't have social media. When I first made my first documentary, there was no like, let's put some stories up, let's do captions, let's ask people questions. I didn't have any of that. So it really has, like, we've come far in the community, but man, we're still like banging a drum to some deaf ears out there.
yeah. Yeah, we are. We are. I'm gonna put up maybe a clip or something like that from your documentary. I forget the child's name, and well, there was two kids. One, I remember his name is Colby Chun, and I
Yeah.
forget the other kid's name.
Luke.
But oh, sorry, go ahead.
Luke. His name was Luke.
Luke. Thank you, Luke and Colby, and you showed a split screen of them in the doldrums of it.
Both the Chuns and the Sinclairs started realizing that something wasn't adding up, wishing to stop the topical steroids and go different routes.
And I, I just I started crying because I'm just gonna keep beating a dead horse with the platitudes of like, oh, how can you but really I'll put it up there so people can see it, because there's less and less of an excuse to let this happen. And as we're on the topic, I heard tell whisperings of a study that's going on where doctors are trying to prevent allergies in kids by using, what do you think they're going to use? Topical
Yeah.
steroids on kids. I just wish that I wish they weren't doing that, because
Yeah.
it's just gonna keep happening. But you know, with movements like this, I really think that it just takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, because to move an establishment that big is a monumental effort, right? It's monumental.
Yeah, and that's why. So within the documentary, and I got to showcase you, um, because I think still to this day, it's just you and my mother who are the only people who have been able to get the resolution bill signed, which honestly is epic. But for just two people, that's it right now. And I will say, I'll sprinkle this in. I do want to create an initiative next year because February 3rd is our TSW day. And I'd really, really like to make an effort to get by the end of 2025 at least 25 states signed. Like that's a
Let's
goal.
go.
And I really want to put something together. I have an idea that I'd like to work on with ITSAN because it's just it is a grassroots effort. It is something that is, again, putting it on patients, but patients have people, patients have loved ones. Like my mother went and did it. It's a community effort, and it sucks that it's us having to do it, but we can do something, and just to keep sharing. And like you said, it working together. I have a quote in the documentary if anyone watches it, and I sit by that quote of like, together we make a mighty fist. So
Yes, apes together strong. All that stuff, you know? Oh, yeah. And for people listening to this podcast, if you are going through TSW, you think you're going to go through TSW, you went through TSW, you have a friend, you heard a whispering of someone. If you want to gain a little bit of meaning in your life, because we talk, I mean, you go on YouTube and you dig into one of those rabbit holes and you will find so many videos about how there's no meaning in this modern life. People are always on social media. Nobody does anything. And it is partly true, but people don't realize how easily you can do something. Just writing a letter really makes an impact. And if you want to make a difference in many people's lives, you can go onto the ITSAN website under the advocate page,
yeah.
And there's a kit for you. You don't even have to write anything. You copy and paste. And I don't know how it is with other states. I'm from a small state, so it was like they just welcomed me in. They were like, "Oh my God, this is crazy. Of course we'll do that for you." And I really can't stand it. If it's that bad for people, right? And you don't want this to happen to other people, please do something about it. Don't leave Briana Banos out hanging out there. Don't leave her hanging. I mean, if we got 50 states, imagine 50 states all did this TSW resolution. All the politicians, they have to know what that is because they're there. They stand up and clap at you, right? They know what it is now. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think as well, the big push towards all of this is because if you have, let's say, this piece of paper is priceless to someone who's trying to fight Child Protective Services or something like that they can say, hey, look, my entire state stands behind me in stating that this is a real thing and I should be listened to, as opposed to a doctor being like, this isn't real. Well, it's something. It is something that can help continue the push forward. And like you said, I have it on my website as well that connects you to ITSAN. If you just put in myname.com, I have the links even for Scratch That in the UK. They're, write to your MP. It's all there for you. Just copy and paste, put your name, send it out. Especially some of us that just have nothing to do during the day if we're in suffering, and maybe we have a support system and you can be like, hey mom, hey dad, hey partner, can you just make this phone call, leave a message, something. it could make the world of difference.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll hop onto that and say that it was incredibly emotional to go into the Senate and to have the entire Senate stand up and clap and look at you and go, "Nice job, nice." And because when they see it, they see your photos. They see a young person, or however old you are. They see a person suffering, and they have the power to just sign their name on it, and so they feel good about it too. And I was super surprised that when the right people are confronted with it, they don't ignore it. Um, Going on to a different topic here, one of the things, I think I touched on it earlier, is, when I was going through this, I was furious with the doctors that did this to me. I wanted to start lawsuits, this and that, and I, I, I had this question in my mind: is like, how much is the doctors just not knowing and it's just in their tool belt, and how much of it is about money? And I was wondering if you could expand upon some of that, which I know was in your documentary, just for people who are listening.
Well, it's kind of, when it comes to trying to look at the doctor's view of what is happening. In my first documentary, in Preventable, I touched upon something called dollars for docs, which is how doctors can be paid for certain things. Sometimes it's for actual prescriptions. I don't believe it's the same in the UK, but in the United States, they are paid for consultancies, things of that nature. And I remember showcasing a particular doctor who I was at a conference again with Kelly Barda and had to listen to an hour and a half of him talk about steroids and how he lies to patients about the use of steroids. It's honestly, it was wild to hear. It was like you're at a rally or something. It was just awful. And so there are people or doctors that do get paid for certain things. But when it comes to also knowing about TSW, a lot of them don't know. They're not taught in medical school. It's not in textbooks. But now with social media and everything, they hear whispers of it. It's not like they're completely out of that range of knowing what that is. Your GP possibly doesn't know what it is, and that's the huge problem, that they don't know how to use steroids properly, that they're just giving them out. They have no proper training on eczema and this subject. So they just get you right in the door with high potency stuff sometimes. But at the end of the day, I feel like there has to be accountability, especially here in the UK. There is the papers that have been going around about TSW, and then to hear someone even say that they brought it up to their doctor, and their doctor was like, "Oh, that was just patient pressure. They had to put that out there." It's literally a place for patients to write in that they're having a reaction to something, and they've had enough patients say, "I'm having a reaction to something." You have to listen to that. You can't just be like, "Oh, patient pressure." That's the people that you should be listening to. So I find it very odd that it's still allowed for you to just be pushed aside when a doctor may not know a ton about it, but they know about it and they refuse to do anything or be curious and look into it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, if you break a foot or something and you go into the doctor and he's maybe checking to see if you have a broken foot. Maybe it's sprained, maybe it's not. And he's applying pressure on there. And he's, "Okay, so I'm feeling around. Just let me know if you feel anything." And then he presses something wrong. You go, "Ow, that really hurts." And he goes, "No, it doesn't." Right? Like, And I think one of the things that's rumbling in my head right now as you're talking, and I'm listening to you. I swear I'm listening to you, and because again, I'm fresh off of watching the majority of your documentaries. That you've got the GP problem, like you just said. That's one of the biggest problems. But I think when Kelly Barda was on my show, she was talking about how they don't have a whole lot of time, and they have so many patients. And what you highlighted in your documentary was a history that there was evidence showing that topical steroids are not as safe and effective as we're told. And there was a point in time, I think it was during the 70s, you said, where money won, right? Like they found that it was just too profitable. And so somebody closer to the top, I think, is more to blame. Whereas people who are following, they're, I think even Ian Miles was saying on the podcast that he was on with me, where he's like, you want a community of experts who follow the book of rules, right? They follow what they're being told. But when the book is wrong, that's when you got a problem. And I think I know the book is wrong when it comes to that. I took some screenshots of some quotes that you have from medical doctors. And if you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of context to this one, I'm going to read the full quote. Imagine the fun the advertising men would have writing a label implying that the hormone could be used with advantage and safety for anything and everything, ... while maintaining sufficient ambiguity to allow future defense against the lady who attempts to sue after prolonged use of hydrocortisone as resulted in unsightly facial
telangiectasia. I was trying to find a photo, honestly, that I didn't have to pay $1 bajillion for. It's basically like spider veins, like stria, yeah, that was one of the arguments. So during that time of I believe it was 34 against 31 that won out on having steroids become over the counter, there were doctors that and if you want to see some of these papers, if you go to my website, brianabanos.com, on the Still Preventable page, all the way down, I have resources, and I've put them in my own Google Drive. You can go to them and you can look at them. It was doctors arguing against, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen if you put this out there. And that one particularly struck a nerve because I've actually tried. I've called in to see, do I have a case against this? I asked someone here in the UK. I had access to a medical negligence lawyer, and they're just like, sorry. Like, there's just, and it's true. How you can just use it for everything, anything, whatever, and it's going to be fine. And then we pay the price for it. The patient pays the price, and no one is held accountable for it. Doctor wants to point at the FDA people. FDA people want to point at us people. It's just like a pointing game, and we're the ones that end up, in the fire.
Yes, that is one of the most frustrating things for my family and I. It's that I went to an allergist to try and figure out what am I allergic to that's making me flare like this. I wanna dig deep and do find what my triggers are and figure out this eczema. And also I think this hydrocortisone is not working. It's making me react. And he's like, I wouldn't worry about that. You weren't using it that much. I would have given you a tub. So here's the directions. Here's what you should do. Do the wet reps. Do this and that. And those prescriptions just keep refilling. As you said in your documentary, you don't take it from me, folks. Take it from all the other people out there who say, like, that stuff just refills on its own. But on the label, it says for 14 days. Apply for 2 to 4 times a day, 14 days. And so I think I heard of somebody who tried to sue for malpractice or something like that. And it came to, no, it's not malpractice because you didn't follow the doctor's orders. You went for much longer than 14 days. So that's the exact thing. It's like, are you kidding me? And I don't know how.
That's the even worst part about it, which I also tried to put into the documentary, of this paradox, or this, it's almost hypocritical or contradictory that, okay, doctors want evidence and there's no evidence of TSW, so it doesn't exist. But then when they're told, use this for this amount of time, oh, but we have artistic license to just tell you how long to use it for however long to use it. And then we get a fingertip rule, don't use more than this, amount. But there's only one steroid label that I've ever found that says don't exceed is 50 grams per week. Like, don't exceed that. All the other ones, you don't have a gram label. There's no max dosage. But if you do the math, we're probably using way more than we're supposed to be using. It just makes no sense. They can have artistic license on one end to do whatever they want, but then there's no price to pay after that, and there's no evidence that there's anything wrong with doing that. There's what? What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I can't. I'm losing my mind about it because, okay, so three things. When Kelly Barta was on the show, and she said so on your documentary, she said there was a study about prednisone, and that 1 gram of prednisone can increase your likelihood of other diseases like diabetes down the road. That's 1 gram. Oh man, what else am I going to say? There's, okay, here we go. So Ian Miles, when he was on my show, he was telling me about his colleague Louis Franco, who did the study on highly potent corticosteroids on healthy volunteer skin, and that 4 hours after, they had the same action that they found in TSW people. Tryptophan lowers, niacin gets pumped up, and that's toxic. It's toxic for the body to go through that. Another easy one for people is if you go online and you just type in side effects for topical steroids, you will see not only that, but all of the other crazy side effects. So it's not, what I get really angry about is, like Kelly Barta was saying, is a doctor gets really intimidated when a patient comes in and is trying to school them, and it's Dr. Google. But I'm here to say that I think Dr. Google's gonna win.
I mean, even over, I think it's going to be very interesting here in the UK what's going to happen next, because we're having label changes. So on steroid inserts and I believe steroid tubes, it will start, I haven't touched a steroid, so I haven't seen a tube yet. But they have to put like TSW as a possibility. Like, it's going to be on the inserts. And it's just, I would like to see now in the next year how they're going to combat if someone, shows signs of TSW and then they say, oh no, just keep using. Is that going to be the telltale of, can we actually have a lawsuit now? Because we have papers out. We have it on the steroid insert. I guess because there's no diagnostic criteria yet, that could be the issue. It's just little by little, as soon as we can catch one fish, you're going to be able to catch a bunch more. Like, there has to be a ripple effect in that regard as well. So I'm just waiting. I am waiting for that lawsuit. Whoever can finally win will be the day. Will be the day.
Oh, it will feel so good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that feel so vindicating?
Like, I would go. Like, I would want to be outside of whatever court that was, just to be there. Because if we can get one, we can get more after that. like there will be a precedent set, which is also something I was trying to allude to at the end of the documentary, that I do feel it's going to be in our favor at some point, and we're gonna be able to do something. But we need people to rally people,
Yes.
like do
Yes.
stuff, share.
Do something about it. And well, thanks to people like yourself making these really well made documentaries, we're getting there. And I've had, just in the past few months, vindication that I never would have imagined. And that's the power of this community. It's a real community. It's not like, oh, the baseball community. Well, you're talking about like 45 different teams. No, this is like an actual community. And, one thing you talk about fishing. This is kind of pun intended here, but, if you want to catch a big fish, there are people in the Amazon they'll take the calluses on their feet and they cut off, pun intended, a big piece of their skin, and they throw it in the water, and a small fish might be really attracted to that piece of fish, right? You get that one small fish, and with that fish, you can use it as bait for the bigger fish and the bigger fish and the bigger fish. And we've got people like Ian Miles, we've got people like Kelly Barta, we've got Peter Leo, we have all these people, and you talk about, you need evidence. And once it gets to the point in the institutions that it's definitely real, that's when I think you can start getting lawsuits over. Because like I like putting a parallel in my mind to how the Americas were populated in the advent of the Ice Age, right? Like the standard model of how people were populated through the Americas is that there was an ice sheet and land bridge from Russia into Canada, like Alaska, and then the ice sheet separated and people came in and they bred all the way down into South America and thus far. And that's the paradigm. But there's more and more evidence, like the footprints in the desert that they found of, it's like 20,000 years old. And that's evidence, but it's not part of the paradigm. You won't find that in a textbook yet. Right? But you can go online and find it. So everyone knows it's real. It's just a matter of the establishment, the people who will eventually come into power. They will change that. And it angers me, but it's also the natural way, right?
I mean, even Dr. Bradley Campbell in the documentary had said, logic is fast and science is slow. And so he said, it takes decades for science to catch up. And so right now we're throwing a lot of logic at them and trying to throw some of the science at them. But it could take a minute. It could take a minute. And I hope I'm here for it. I really hope I'm here for it.
Oh, I think you will be. I think you will be. How has your life changed? I don't want to dwell too much on the negative parts of it, but one thing I found really amazing is that community aspect. And how has your life changed since TSW? Because I know you were a dancer. I can relate to that because I'm a drummer and a photographer, and I couldn't do that for the longest time. How has it been for you?
I mean, I think there's still, if I'm being honest, there's still a part of me that finds it very difficult because, dancing is an all-around physical thing. And the older you get, dancers, for the most part, don't dance until an old age. There's a very early retirement, I guess, for that, and it was really sad that I had to give that up. I actually kind of did my dissertation here. So I'm in Scotland, and I just finished my master's for film directing, and it's for short documentary film, more towards creative film. And I did a film called Tethered, where I just talked about how I felt like I was the healthiest person that I know, but also the sickest. And it's just this constant battle of trying to figure out my health, trying to get better. I have people around me who can eat junk food and drink, tons every single day if they wanted to, and they just don't take care of their body, and their body is functioning what seems to be better than mine. Um, and so I always just found that to be like the hardest part about TSW was trying all these things, being so healthy and still being sick. So I still battle with that, losing out on my career that I really loved. But at the end of the day, even through like the ups and downs, I the community that I have made and have now get to be a part of, I have met some beautiful people because of this. And I don't want this to define my life, but it has become a part of it. And because of that, the people that I now surround myself with, I feel like I'm able to appreciate life a little more. That what was once, oh, I'm getting out of bed. To get out of bed in the morning and not be in pain, I I will cherish that forever and ever. Because right now I am in pain. Like I have, like my eyes are a little swollen and things like that. I have a flare kind of going on. And I don't think people who have never gone through something like this are able to cherish life the way that we are. I mean, I sound silly sometimes, like, especially if I write, I blog and things. It's just the smallest things make my day. And I wouldn't be able to experience that if it wasn't for this. So I think people who go through something like we've gone through are just able to see life in a different way. And I appreciate the peace of life now. And I don't need the hustle and bustle. I love nature. I just love trying to take some time out if I can, just to go for a walk or something. It's just being able to embrace a almost simpler life of the small things mean so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I I really relate to that. When you say waking up and not being in pain, it's taken a really long time for me as well. But I say this all the time. Pants are awesome. Pants and underwear are underrated. Like, just wearing underwear and pants at the same time. Holy moly. I feel like a new man. And I think that's one of the things that really amazes me about people who have been going through TSW. Not everybody, but I think the word warrior is really well suited for these people, because I would equate that to someone literally being tortured by like a terrorist organization for 5 years straight. And then they go and take a selfie of them going like this. Look, see, look at me. I'm still here. Like I've seen you do that. I've seen Jordan with a big smile on his face, Jordan from Australia. I just, I envy people like you and him and so many others. Like the life, the life that is so precious. You have to see it that way because you don't have anything else. I think it was, I'm going to quote Kelly Bartas so many times in this
Do it.
podcast, but
I want to be Kelly
she's,
when I grow up.
oh my God, me too. She's such a badass. She's such a badass, but she was telling me how, she lost her marriage. She lost everything. But in hindsight, she looks back and wonders, well, she's looking at her life like now she's living it more for herself, whereas before she was living it for other people, doing things in hopes that other people would be approving of that. And what you just said earlier about how you may be the healthiest person you know, but still the sickest. I don't think that sickness is going to last forever. I believe that you're intelligent enough that this will not last forever. And that feeling lasts, right? Like where you know how to take care of yourself. You won't drink too much. You'll appreciate the wind you'll appreciate flowers growing. And in a way, I think that's a gift that nothing else but adversity could give you.
No, I agree. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so funny. Um, Someone I have met recently shared a quote with me, and I really like it. And I actually have it. I put it on my wall just the other day, and it says, "All pain must have a counterweight. Something beautiful will take its place." And I really, really loved that because I
Mm.
believe that's the sentiment of this community. Like, the pain that we are given, so many people I have seen turn it into purpose. So many people have used it to even like better themselves. I remember having a conversation with Heather, who makes an appearance in the documentary, and something that she said outside of what I could put in the documentary was just she feels wiser because of TSW, and it's given her a chance to know her body better, to
Yeah.
research things that are better for her child. She's like, these are things that I never would have been able to really see unless I was sick. And so I think something beautiful will take pain's place, as long as we're open to it. I know that there's a lot of anger in the community, rightfully so. Um, but I feel like if we hang on to that anger for so long, we become a bit blinded by it. And
Mm.
I think using the anger as fuel for change works well, most cases. But it's just to see this as a seed and grow something from it. Even when we lose everything, I'm in Kelly's shoes. I lost my marriage, I lost my career, all sorts of things. So just having this like beginning again, establishing yourself again, standing up on your own 2 feet. I mean, that's remarkable in and of itself. Someone once told me when I was trying to just start working out again and I had no muscle, I was just so weak. And they said, if all you could do is crawl, start crawling. So that's what you do. You just got to put one foot in front of the other. And I think a lot of people will find that they are really strong and they are really resilient. They weren't given the choice, but this this proves that there is, I don't know, a crazy amount of spirit that we have. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It fascinates me, the psyche when it comes to things like this. And you talk about, and I want to preface this by saying I would never wish this on even my worst enemy, right? This should, and it's the whole dang point of your documentaries, is this is preventable, right? So no way in hell would I wish this upon anybody. But there's so many people out talking right now about how adversity breeds strength, or how discipline equals freedom. And you just said, if you can start crawling, start crawling. And that builds it it builds such a resilience in a person that they're reborn. It's why my logo is a phoenix, but not a red one, because that would be too on the nose. A blue one, and it's so beautiful. It really blows me away. There is a quote. There's a quote on your website that I really like, and I just wanted to ask you about it. It's called "I love you, I see you, I am you." And I wonder if you wanted to talk about that a little bit. Is that from TSW? Is that from, where is that?
That's from me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know you said it, but
yeah, it started. Oh my gosh, when did I start that? I honestly think it started. It was post COVID. It's actually pretty recent. It was when I went through like the really big nasty flare. I started doing tea with Brie, like little episodes on YouTube, because that's where I first started, was YouTube. My first episode ever was shaving my head, back in 2015. And I Love You, I See You, I Am You became a thing because I wanted people to see, like, I am you. I was still going through it. I was still suffering so much, during like 2021, 2022. I was really suffering. And I just I just said that out loud one day when I was filming. It just came out and I was just like, "Oh my god." So I just kept using it because I felt like I wanted people to understand, like, I love you. I see you. I really am you. So it was just a way to feel connected to everybody because I'm in the same boat. I'm rowing right next to you.
Yeah. Well, it's a great catchphrase or quote or however you would call it. It's really good. And I just wanted to ask if you had ever had any psychedelic experiences or anything like that, because as someone who has, it's true. We are everybody and everybody is us and we're all connected, and there's this incredible love that connects everybody, but we're trained from a very young age to not tap into it. And that's something I would really love to see put into the medical system responsibly, as well as a lack of topical steroids. um, because I think so much of why we use topical steroids, and I can only speak for myself and the people I've heard of, but we have busy lives. We live our lives for the job that we have, and we live for that fast-paced thing. Um, and if you have eczema, if you have psoriasis or something like that, it is more than just the skin. I mean, even people who are at the top of studying eczema, they know that. Ian Miles knows that. Um, it's something that you need to really truly investigate, but we don't have the time, or we don't think we have the time, so we cover it up, and we have a rash, and maybe the kids in our class will make fun of us, and so we're ashamed of it. And just the whole overturning of that into, I'm thinking about my entire body. I'm thinking about how I see myself, thinking about how I see others, thinking about how I live. I hope this would be, stories like this should be the genesis for how we heal our society. And I would really love to see that. And I would be interested in seeing TSW patients go through, when they're comfortable enough, obviously, through something like a psychedelic treatment, because they are suffering with PTSD. You want to talk about people who have gone through trauma, like soldiers and stuff like that? Yeah, I haven't seen someone blow up in front of me, but I blew up in front of me.
Yeah.
I lost myself, and countless other people did too, right?
I actually, there's on my blog site, there's a writing called Prisoner of War that I did, and I read it out loud 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago, at one of the NEA expos. Just randomly, everyone was sharing stuff, so I got up and was like, what am I going to share? And it just alludes to that. Like, it talks about a story of Jeremiah Denton. He was a prisoner of war, and like the torture that he went through. And you never, like, with TSW, I think what makes torture so horrible is time. Like, you don't know when you're going to get out of it. You don't know when the pain is going to end. And that is traumatic in and of itself, of just not knowing when it's going to end. So trauma is just sewn into the fabric of TSW. Like I don't know one person that that can truly not say that this hasn't left a mark on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and it runs very, very deep. I don't know if you've had this experience, Brianna, but there are some movies I'll watch, especially when I was going through it. Hell, I was crying my eyes out at Lord of the Rings. I was crying when Frodo and Sam are climbing the molten lava Mount Doom. I was crying my eyes out because I'm like, he's gonna make it. He's gonna get through it. And I've never cried through that before, but it was just suddenly I just felt
Relevant.
everything. Yeah, yeah. Are there any films like that you've seen that just grabbed you? Like,
Oh my gosh. I mean, just the other day, but I feel like it isn't the same as maybe putting a reference to like Lord of the Rings that has really nothing to do with the experience, but there's a film called 5 Feet Apart. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
no.
And it's just about cystic fibrosis. And she talks about touch and not being able to touch the person that she loves. And I'm gonna get like teary-eyed just thinking about it right now. So I would just get so emotional because I was like, I get that. I get it. I get that to my very core. And like not feeling beautiful because, you know, they have scars and things from all the surgeries they've had to have for different ports and things. And there's a part where he looks at her, he's like, everything about you's sexy. When she feels like she's like, it's not very sexy what I look like. I was like, if a man ever said that to me, like, what? So yeah, there are like plenty of films that will hit a little harder because of just what we've been through. And yeah, like you're cheering them on, you know, he's gonna make it. And you just feel that for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say that I know you lost your marriage to this, and I mean, I don't know any of the details, but to me, if someone leaves you like that at your worst, then I would have trouble believing that they truly were the right person. And, you know, I'm beyond blessed that I had my wife, Elizabeth, because I would not be here if it wasn't for her. Period. The end. And you have countless other people who are so lucky to have that. But those people out there exist. They exist. And I know you'll be able to find somebody who loves you so much that no matter what you go through, I believe in that. That will happen. You just have to be open to it. And I think this horrible condition has opened a lot of doors. Talk about not being able to touch the people you love. Oh my God, that just destroys me. Like I couldn't hug my wife. I couldn't hug anybody. There are a couple more films. There's a film called Awakenings with Robin Williams and Robert De Niro, where Robert De Niro, I forget the condition he had, but it was a bunch of people in this hospital and they were like zombies. They couldn't move, they couldn't react, and people just thought it was this permanent condition, but it was caused by a virus. And Robin Williams plays this doctor who's like dead set on trying to find something and fighting the system to try and help. And oh my God, I even worse than Frodo, obviously. It was like, I could not stop crying. I remember I couldn't sit down for many months, so I just stood there in front of the TV, just crying. But I think, Patch Adams with Robin Williams. That's a really good one.
Oh, I've seen that one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best healing is love and laughter. And Brianna, I really think that, I mean, you're obviously young enough that you have plenty of life ahead of you, and you've really helped a lot of people. And I think when you have make yourself vulnerable and you show your true self to people. You've shown how resilient you are. You've shown how much you're dogged about this cause. It's gonna end well for you. I think so. I want to ask you about something else because we've spent a lot of time about psychological stuff, but you touched a little bit about CAP therapy. For anyone who doesn't know, cold atmospheric plasma. I would like to know if you tried it ever, and if not, why not? Because I know everyone has a different story, and you do a good job of not judging people for trying different things.
So CAP therapy is available, I believe, in Singapore, in Bangkok, and in Winchester, UK.
Yes.
There's nowhere else that does this specific type. I know a lot of people peddle that they have this, but these are the only 3 places. And I've would love to have the time and the resources to go and try that. I really believe in it. I have visited Louise and Jing's in the UK. When I was filming, they gave me a treatment. I had like a little thing on my eye, so like they did a little bit for me just on my eye, just so I can like test it out, try it. I really see the difference it has made in many people's lives. Again, is it 100%? No, I can't say that. I can't say that with any assurance. And I just, even looking at Jordan's not 100% healed, and he did CAP treatment. But I've seen how much better, and just being there and seeing the people come in and chat with me and share with me how much it's changed their lives. I would love, absolutely love, like back in the day, if I had known about it, like when I was first going through TSW and I had nothing left to lose, I would have done it 100%. But right now, even though I'm in the UK, I'm very far from the clinic. And to take a train back and forth, which I do know someone who does that. It's just, I don't have really the money for that at the moment.
Yeah,
Because
that's one of the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so just depending on what parts of your body you need and things like that, and the time to do that. So I know people who, have kids, or they are the financial breadwinner and still have to keep working. It's like 6 months out of your life that you have to, put your life on hold to go and do. So if you can work remotely, amazing, go give it a shot. But I know it's a sacrifice for people, but I think CAP therapy is great. And if you have that time and the resources to do it, to me, I'm like, go give it a shot. Go give it a shot.
Yeah, I would say so too. Yeah, that's one of the worst parts, is because TSW is not fully recognized yet. You got to front the bills.
Yep.
And there are some people who have been very lucky with GoFundMes. And I know you have your own GoFundMe, which everybody should absolutely right away donate to.
It's
so that not only
buy
you
me
can
a coffee.
get whatever.
Or buy me a ticket.
Yeah, well, not only so you can get a coffee and make still preventable, but that you can get whatever treatment you so desire.
Thank you.
And yeah, with CAP treatment, I almost did it. There is a person locally who had a machine in my state, but it was not the machine that is specifically built for TSW skin. So I tried it, didn't notice too much, and so much of that treatment is what you do at home. They may have talked to you about that, Jing and Louise. So for anyone listening, yeah, you can use the machine, but there's protocols about removing all the irritants in your home. And I did that, and it really worked for me too. It really helped. So I think that there's so much we can learn from each other as long as we don't remain in silos. I could picture a future where someone with TSW, hopefully that's never in the future, but someone who would use like a group of different things. So maybe they would have herbs from Olivia Friedman because
Yeah.
your whole body's mucked up, but also on the skin. So maybe cap therapy for that. And I just anything that doesn't have crazy side effects, and holistically heals the person would be really great. Um, yeah,
It's a dream.
yeah,
It would be a dream. But like Olivia Freeman said in the documentary, we have a broken system right now, a really broken system, and we're fighting to at least try and put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Um, so it's just to go back to it. We need each other. And each of us has a role to play, even if it's small. And I know it takes a lot of bravery to put your pictures out there, to show it off. I know it is not easy. So for me to be like, oh, just share your story, I know it's hard. It's so hard. You don't want people to see that, see you that way. The reason why we started, the reason why we started topical steroids in the first place was because we didn't want people to see our skin. Like, we didn't want people
exactly.
to see us like this. And now it's just on steroids. That's how much worse it is. So, but if you can, share your story, write into the MPs, go online and just copy and paste. Like, these little things or snowball into huge effect that we could have if we all just worked together to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to help with, because there are so many different schools of thought on how to treat it, and I think they each have their uses. And if somebody can get a hub where they can have access to proper education on each one of those, that would really help. And maybe a location where they could get all of that someday. You're right. It's a dream, but I think it's a dream worth fighting for.
Oh yeah.
Especially when I see those kids, I'm like, oh, we gotta help you. There's also the study I did in my last podcast with Ian Miles, where he's talking about berberine to block the mitochondrial excess from complex 1. That could work a little bit. But yeah, I feel like I'm talking too much in this podcast. So I want to turn it over to you, Brianna, a little bit more about maybe stuff that you would like to put out there, things that you could urge people to do, and really anything that you want to say before we close.
Yeah, so I think one is that we're all in this together. I do find that sometimes people can be a little more stuck in their ways of, if something worked for them, it's going to work for everybody. And so I know there are a lot of very desperate people in this community. Go with your gut. If something doesn't feel right for you, then it's probably not for you. There are thankfully so many things that we can try to comfort ourselves, but there are no definite answers of this exact thing is going to work for you. And I hope that we can be non-judgmental towards each other, because there are people that are going to go on immunos. They are going to try the biologics. They are going to try the JAK inhibitors. All I can do is give information out on the pros and cons of these things. But it's not my place to judge who goes on them, who uses cap therapy, who uses traditional Chinese medicine, who uses any of the drugs, who wants to go complete cold turkey, who wants to try different diet changes. Do what is best for you, because I know for a very long time I felt guilty for even thinking about going on Dupixent, and part of me wishes I maybe would have tried it sooner, because I was in a really dark place mentally. I was not doing well. But I just kept thinking, the community, I've got to do this for the community, like, I can't go on this drug. Then that's just going to be the end of it. Like, do what you need to do just to survive through this. Weigh the pros and cons for yourself. It is your life. Who cares what anyone else says about it? Um, so I think that's probably like a big takeaway. And then the second is to do something. Like I feel like I will probably be a broken record, or hopefully not a broken record. Just I will keep saying it over and over because I really do. I want people to see that they can make a difference. Maybe they feel like they can't. They're in whatever state that they're in. Maybe they've lost their family. Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe they're just really struggling mentally, or they feel like their life really isn't worth anything. Oh my gosh, every one of us counts, and if we all did something, even if it's small, I mean, even just it doesn't have to be my documentary. Sharing whatever resource out there about TSW. There are so many people that we don't know that have eczema. The person that I did the sound recording with, who did my voiceover and stuff for the documentary, he told his boss what he was doing. His boss was like, "Oh, I have eczema," and
Huh.
he was like, "What? You have eczema?" Just sharing it. If your friend has TSW and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna share this out because my friend has it. You have no idea who in your friend group might benefit from that. Just share. It's literally 2 clicks and go for it. So just know that you can do something. When this feels helpless, when you feel like no one's doing this, no one's doing that, you could be the change. You could be the change that you're looking for. So if we can all just rally together, go copy and paste something into an email, maybe it takes you 10 minutes if you want to change a few things around. That 10 minutes could end up changing your life. Do it. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. Yeah, everybody, there's no excuse. Uh, especially to watch your documentary. It's free on YouTube. I think it should be on, HBO and Netflix and stuff like that. That's where it deserves to be. I hope that maybe still preventable can be on HBO, whatever it's
Well,
called.
I will
You
say,
know,
even then, like, people, maybe you feel like you don't have much you can do, but maybe you have a resource. Maybe you know someone who works at a news station. Maybe you know someone that works at a radio station. See if you can go on there. See if I can go on there. See if JP could go on there to just talk about this. It's those little things that could mean so much.
yes,
So
totally agree. There's so many things I want to ask you, but I think our podcast is at an end.
yeah.
I really, really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate that you made these documentaries. I think looking back as we look back at history of how this went down, I think this documentary is going to go down as being one of the more important ones in educating people. So I on behalf of the TSW community, thank you, Briana.
No, thank you guys. I couldn't have done it without all these brave souls. So allowing me into their homes and things, and these doctors that use their voices. So it was a group effort, and I'm very, very honored to have gotten to use these stories. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, awesome. I'm gonna end this podcast. I'll just say goodbye, world, and then I'll stop the recording. All right.
Okay.
Goodbye, world.